Jai Guruji, Namaste Guruji, Jai Guruji Sangatji. Today is the 16th day of reading of the Divine Light of Anita Kumar, and I will be reading chapter 31. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya Shivji Sada Sahai. Om Namah Shivaya Guruji Sada Sahai. Chapter 31, The Guru-Disciple Equation. I thought I had heard the voice of God and climbed the highest steep. But God declared, "Go down again. I dwell among the people." Anonymous. It is neither incidental nor coincidental when people cross our paths in Guruji Sangat. It is all His will, as His heart evidently beats amongst us. We are either here to teach them or to learn from them. We are all mentoring each other in our own capacity to strengthen and support each other's call of faith. Guruji has taught us to go the extra mile for each other, with good sense and wisdom, of course, out of sheer love for our Guruji Maharaj. Sturdy and steady is the support we get in the Sangat, and there is a strong sense of fraternity and brotherhood amongst us. I met R.P. Sharma on Facebook. I had seen him from a distance, and I was probably a blur in the sea of faces for him that he encountered every day in the Sangat. I was writing my first book, Turning the Page, and needed an opinion on its relevance in the context of faith. His aura and personality shone through even though through the computer, and Guruji's blessings on him were very evident. Here he shares his blessed journey with Guruji and how the power of faith has given his life depth and meaning. Satsang by R.P. Sharma. The most amazing and beautiful experience of my life has been coming in contact with Guruji. In the subsequent paragraphs, whatever I am writing about a disciple relationship with Guruji is based upon my experience with Guruji and not something I have read or assumed. The relationship of Guruji and his disciple is a unique one in many ways. It is the only one that has no boundaries of life and death, no preconditions attached to it, and it is a bond that never ends. A relationship where everything is expressed without even a word before spoken, where everything that is in the interest of the disciple is granted without ever being asked. All follies of the disciple are forgiven unconditionally, for Guruji's love is greater than any other love we have ever known. It is greater than even the love of a mother for the child, as Guruji never ever abandons the disciple, however bad the disciple may be. In fact, the weakest disciple gets the maximum attention from Guruji as he needs it more than others. Once a disciple like me walked up to Guruji and asked if he could be forgiven. Our compassionate Guruji replied, "Do you think I have an option? I am the only savior and true well-wisher of the disciple who really knows what is good or bad for the disciple." Guruji's only concern is how to uplift the disciple spiritually. He may ensure this in many ways without the disciple ever knowing it. A disciple is never alone, for he is never out of the graceful gaze of his Guruji. Guruji always knows all deeds, words and thoughts of the disciple. Like a concerned mother, Guruji always watches over the karma of his disciple, slowly but surely inspiring him towards the best and dissuading him from the bad while preserving his free will. It is only the spiritual growth that is the focus of our Guruji, though the disciple may at times be worried more about his worldly concerns than the spiritual ones. As a matter of fact, most of the disciples in the nascent stage of their evolvement would get attracted to Guruji only for the fulfillment of their worldly materialistic concerns, as Guruji is quite capable of fulfilling these too. It is then that Guruji intercedes and helps overcome the obstacles in the spiritual path. Guruji himself is free from the delusions of worldly desires, and it is not possible that he would ever like his disciples to remain caged in the endless web of worldly desires by fulfilling all of them. Initially, a less evolved disciple is more likely to measure the grace of Guruji by the yardstick of how many of his or her desires were fulfilled by Guruji. Eventually, when he progresses on the spiritual path and evolves with the grace of Guruji, his desires start diminishing, and the measure of Guruji's grace then changes to how little he desires with time. All worldly desires arise out of some attachment or the other, and all the attachments are the result of karmic bondages created due to the karma of past lives, resulting in latent tendencies the soul carries in it, also called sanskaras. Our karma of the present life is governed by these tendencies. Guruji's task is to ensure freedom from this bondage. This is a slow but gradual process, and all disciples, one day or the other, are bound to achieve it. The stronger the bondage, the greater would be the number of desires, resulting in a restless mind chasing those endless desires, and in the process creating ever greater bondage for future lives. This then becomes a vicious cycle which the disciple can never break on his own till a guru arrives in his life. The trinity of Guruji's grace acts as a creator and a new being in the disciple, the destroyer of his old self and also the preserver of the newly created one. In this sense, Guruji is all in one, Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. No progress on the spiritual path is ever possible without a Guru's grace. It is the path of grace and not of effort. One may do endless jap, tap, penance, puja, path, recitation or pilgrimages, but nothing will happen till the time the grace of the Guru appears. The only precondition for Guruji's grace is endless and unquestionable devotion along with complete faith. In today's world, we are taught and trained to doubt and question everything on the testimony of reason and intellect. Faith itself is a rare trait, and with most of us, it is not as strong as it should be. Again, it is the grace of our Guruji who grants, protects, and develops that faith. Sometimes, in order to destroy the barriers of intellect and pave the path for the growth of faith, Guruji may perform certain so-called miracles. The objective of such miracles is only the creation of faith in the doubting minds and nothing else. Intellect is the bigger barrier in the path of spiritual growth, though it is a very useful faculty for day-to-day worldly life. For a beginner on the spiritual path, it is the torch of faith which lights up the path till the time the disciple is blessed to have experiences of his own. Thereafter, he is on a stronger wicket of knowledge rather than mere faith. But in the initial phases, the intellect can and does give rise to a number of doubts that weakens faith. It is in these moments that Guruji would be compelled to intercede in some way or the other to defeat the intellect and deepen faith. The ways in which Guruji acts in the lives of disciples are very subtle. Making too explicit a presence can often create its own problems in the spiritual growth of the disciple, from inflating disciple's ego to making him too complacent. Disciple is an exalted state of spiritual growth. In an exalted stage of spiritual growth, are only blessed with his explicit presence in the form of physical darshan even after the Mahasamadhi of our Guruji. The presence of Guruji, though, remains in every disciple's life. As the devotion to Guruji increases, so does his grace, and with that there is gradual but diminishing sense of worldly attachments. This results in less and less craving for worldly objects, leading to a greater peace of mind and a perpetual state of unconditional bliss, blissful happiness. This paving the way for the soul's onward journey to higher realms leads to its ultimate submergence with the Supreme. There are many spiritual yogis, saints, or other gurus who lived far away from ordinary householders like us, and very few blessed and exalted people can be accepted as their disciples. Guruji Maharaj is an exceptional yogi who came and stayed amongst ordinary mortals like us and till date continues to enlighten us on the path of spirituality. Guruji's regime is totally unconventional. People from all walks of life are welcome, the rich and poor, the known and unknown, children and elderly, and all people, all religions, castes, sects, and communities. There are no sermons, no preaching, and no taboos. There is no formal process of diksha, initiation, though I believe Guruji took his own time in accepting people as disciples. The one who is accepted gets connected and gets to know directly about Guruji. Guruji has a direct connection with all disciples at all times, and no intermediaries or messengers are ever needed in a relationship between the Guruji and his devotee. All prayers are directed to Guruji and all answers also come directly. I also came to Guruji through someone, but then, thereafter, it always brings a direct relation. The person who brought you to Guruji is just a medium who has been selected by Guruji for that purpose. Once you are into Guruji's fold, he is with you 24 hours a day. This is not an exaggeration, but a statement of fact experienced by everyone who has been connected with Guruji. All your thoughts, forget words, are heard and answered by Guruji day in and day out. One of the ways in which Guruji makes his presence felt is his fragrance. After the Mahasamadhi, Guruji's fragrance has become the lifeline of many devotees like me. It is not only the sure sign of his presence in an astral form, but also a token of his blessings and a medium of expression, an invisible bond which keeps the breaths inseparable, tied up with the Holy Master all the time. Once sitting in the satsang in his holy presence, I was pondering over the meaning of the word Guru, when suddenly he called someone and asked him to read out the meaning of the word Guru from a book, and then looked at me asking if the same was clear to me. Not a word spoken, and yet my doubt was cleared. I don't recall Guruji ever preaching or giving sermons, and yet all my doubts were always invariably cleared. I once asked Guruji why he didn't preach like other saints. He said, "They are just preachers, and I don't preach because I do the practical." With the practical, he referred to was the change in the devotee, which was more important than a mere theoretical preaching. Guruji is invariably with his disciple, watching over their karma all the time. I remember once I had a chance to visit an astrologer who, after drawing my horoscope, said that you have the special blessings of your Guru in your life. I said, I have a Guru and sure he blesses me, but I don't think I have the special blessings as you are saying. I said so because in those days, Guruji would call some Sangat members and offer them his charan foot seva, and as I was not fortunate enough to have been offered the honor, I assumed it was meant only for those who were specially blessed, and I was not one of those as yet. The next day when I came to satsang, Guruji called me out of the Sangat and offered charan seva and looked at me and asked, "Are you specially blessed now?" On another occasion, Guruji once asked me to have halwa prasad, and I had it with 4 people as is the practice. After we had eaten our prasad, I saw someone carrying a bowl of prasad for Guruji, and I thought that we did not get the prasad in the real sense, as the prasad is what is left after Guruji has eaten, but In this case, we had eaten before Guruji, so we did not get the prasad. Suddenly Guruji called me and offered me prasad out of his bowl, and I said, "This is exactly what I wanted." And Guruji smiled and said, "I know what you want all the time." As a compassionate, concerned Guru, Guruji always keeps a track of all the activities of his disciple. I remember once I could not attend the satsang of Guruji, and one day early in the morning I had a dream in which Guruji asked me why I was not coming to the satsangs and also told me to come with my family to the satsang that evening. I reached Guruji's satsang that evening with my family. As soon as Guruji came out of his room, he noticed me and asked me why I had not come all these days. I said that I have come today, and he replied, "You have come when I have asked you to." Thereafter, I never ever missed his satsangs. One day after Guruji's Mahasamadhi, I was going to the satsang at the Bade Mandir, and that particular day there was no one to accompany me. My elder daughter had an exam, and my wife had to stay back. My younger daughter, who was just 12 years old then, agreed to accompany me. On the way to the satsang, I prayed to Guruji to help me strengthen the faith of this young child. Then I asked my daughter, "Do you want to see a miracle?" She said yes. I prayed to Guruji loudly that I want to have halwa prasad today in the langar. During langar, my daughter was very curious as she saw only laddus being served in the langar and there was no halwa. She pointed it out to me and I said, "Just wait, let our plate come." When our plate came, it had halwa and no laddus, and no other plate that day had any halwa, nor was halwa prasad served. Guruji surely created it to strengthen the faith of my daughter as I had requested. It is a wonderful grace to be always connected with Guruji, who can hear you anytime, respond to your thoughts all the time, watch over you, and grant almost anything you desire. It is also a major responsibility on the part of the disciple to be able to generate only right and noble thoughts, words and actions, and never to fall from that grace which a Guru grants out of his sheer compassion for the spiritual evolution of the soul. Ego at times is the biggest hurdle that can often block the path of spirituality. The disciple has to be very cautious lest he falls in this trap. Selfless service, a state of perpetual forgiveness, and love for all are the sure antidote for the malice of the ego. All disciples are equal and no one is smaller or greater than the other. It is a myth to think that some disciples who had the privilege of being in close proximity to Guruji during his physical lifetime are closer to him than others. The very practice of serving langar prasad to 4 people in one plate is meant to signify this message of equality of all Sangat members and to promote mutual love and respect. The langar and chai prasad served at Guruji's satsang is no ordinary food. It is divine prasad which cures a number of physical and spiritual limitations in the lives of the devotees. There are many cases where incurable diseases of Sangat members were cured just by taking the langar and chai prasad. Sharing the experiences of Guruji's grace with other Sangat members blesses both the narrator as well as the listeners in many ways and is a practice that binds the Sangat members together by strengthening the common bond of faith. Guruji's photographs are not just pictorial representations but more. Therefore, these must be kept with great reverence and respect. On numerous occasions, the Sangat members have had many experiences of Guruji's live presence through his photographs. Guruji himself used to give out his photographs during his lifetime, and therefore the photographs should be given only to true devotees of Guruji. The Shabad Gurbani played at Guruji's temple is selected by Guruji, and most of the time each member of the Sangat gets clarification on his doubts of the day through Guruji's Shabad Gurbani or the satsangs of the other Sangat members. Once you are connected with Guruji, a hotline is established instantly between you and him. Almost on every question or doubt in your life, you can seek his guidance and he replies instantly. He does not only guide you but also gives you the strength to choose the right path. He is there in every moment of your life, in whatever you are doing and whatever you may be. He is the real companion in this journey of the soul, and this companionship is beyond the boundaries of physical existence. The problem with most disciples is their inability to see beyond their physical existence. They remain too attached to their physical world and the needs of their physical existence. Guruji's focus is always on the spiritual needs of the disciple and his growth on the spiritual front. It is therefore quite likely that Guruji may not fulfill all the physical desires of the disciple, particularly when these are not conducive to his spiritual growth. However, if the physical needs of the disciple were likely to impede his spiritual life, then Guruji would definitely intercede with his grace. No one may pray for one's physical needs to Guruji. So one may pray for one's physical needs to Guruji. But leave him to decide whether they really need to be fulfilled, for what is in the ultimate interest of the disciple is known only to Guruji. For most disciples, physical circumstances do affect their spiritual lives. It is therefore important that our physical circumstances are conducive to our spiritual growth. However, a stage does come in the life of a disciple when physical barriers do not impact spiritual growth, but that happens at a very advanced stage. Therefore, Guruji would definitely ensure a conducive physical environment to pave the path for the spiritual growth of his disciple by ensuring proper health, finances, and family circumstances. He would keep ensuring this till the time the disciple is so spiritually advanced that these things do not have an impact on him anymore. One must, therefore, become gradually more concerned with one's spiritual needs than the physical ones. Every time I do a good karma in my life, it gets immediate appreciation from Guruji in the form of a whiff of his fragrance. At times when my physical karma is not in sync with my spiritual life, again the message is conveyed by blocking the fragrance till such time I am able to regret and cleanse myself in some way or the other. And not having Guruji's fragrance for even a day can be unbearable for a disciple that anybody connected with Guruji can well understand. I remember one day when I was in a foul mood and took all negative decisions which could have been avoided with greater restraint and patience. I came to Guruji in the evening, and there was no fragrance, nor did Guruji look at me even once. I felt dejected, but soon realized my mistakes, and the next day corrected all of them and came back to Guruji. There was a lot of fragrance, and Guruji smiled at me approvingly. Not even a single word was spoken, yet my karmic graph was corrected yet again. Once you are connected with Guruji, everyone, including your family, everyone you feel concerned about, your friends, relatives, servants, pets, everyone comes into the fold of Guruji's grace. All of them constitute your environment, which affects your physical and spiritual life. Guruji ensures that the environment is conducive to your spiritual development. But as you advance in your spiritual growth, you may at times find the karmic or physical circumstances taking a challenging turn. These are testing situations in a disciple's life. The higher the evolution, the more difficult the test. These situations may take various forms like your health, the health of your near and dear ones, financial problems, or problems of family members, etc. All these karmic situations are created to make the disciple work out the karmic depth and also for the soul to evolve the soul to higher levels after going through trying experiences. It is important to retain faith in Guruji in such situations, as nothing can ever happen in the life of a disciple that Guruji has not approved. Guruji always gives more importance to the karmic graph of the disciple than to a ritualistic conformance to any puja, jap or part. It is, however, not to say that such ritualistic regimes are of no use. All satsang, puja, tap and more are effective only if the disciple's karma is in sync with the spiritual objects. Otherwise, these empty exercises would not be able to take the disciple far on the spiritual path. Of all the spiritual concepts, the principle of karmic cause and effect is perhaps the most complex. The Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures support the principle of karma and even otherwise. This appears to be the most logical explanation for various apparent inequalities and inequities in the world. If one were to believe that one is born with some destiny which is beyond one's ability to change, then one has to accept that one is born with some karmic baggage carried over from previous lives. This needs to be worked out in this life by going through various karmic situations one is fated to face. Every person who comes into your life is there to settle some karmic account with you. The karmic baggage can be emotional, physical, spiritual or financial. It would be settled in the same tenor in which it was created. The problem, however, in working over the cobweb of these past life baggage is that in the process, we invariably tend to create more baggage. This becomes a vicious cycle, paving the way for many more lives to come. The baggage of good karma is as binding as the baggage of bad karma. The only difference being that chances of creating bad karma are more when working out good karma rather than when working out a bad karma. The bad phases in life, like financial strains, illnesses, separations, etc., are the working out of the bad karma. These are much more educative and soul reforming than the good or normal phases of life. If one were to analyze one's life, one would accept that the so-called bad phases in life taught the best lessons and made one a better human being. The good or normal phases generally do not make the person evolved. On the contrary, these can often lead to degeneration due to heightened arrogance, ego, and lack of concern for others. One should therefore go through the bad phases in life with a sense of equanimity and relief as one does get rid of karmic burdens and emerges a better soul passing through them. Also, the good phases in life must be tread through carefully, lest one unfairly tramples over many a not so fortunate soul, thus creating future cobwebs of difficult and unpleasant karma. Jai Guruji. And that was the end of chapter 31. There was so much to learn between a guru and disciple relationship, and how Guruji is always there 24/7 with us, correcting us. We don't even know how much He is correcting in our life once we are connected to Him. Thank you, Guruji, for taking us in your Sharan. And thank you so much, Guruji, for giving seva of reading the Divine Light. And now we will end this session with mantra jap, so please join me on that. Om Namah Shivaya, Shivji Sada Sahai. Om Namah Shivaya, Guruji Sada Sahai. Om Namah Shivaya, Shivji Sada Sahai. Om Namah Shivaya, Guruji Sada Sahai. Om Namah Shivaya, शिवजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय, गुरुजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय, शिवजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय, गुरुजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय, शिवजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय, गुरुजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय, शिवजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय, गुरुजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय, शिवजी सदा सहाय। ओम नमः शिवाय, गुरुजी सदा सहाय। शुक्राना गुरुजी, अनंतम शुक्राना। जय गुरुजी। थैंक यू गुरुजी।